Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first LEGO League Challenge kickoff. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a celebration to introduce and get everyone acquainted with each other and the new first LEGO League Challenge season. I'm your host today. I'm Karthik, and I'm excited for everything that's going to be happening now. This is a virtual event. It's a little bit different than what we're used to. Normally, we'd be all in person and screaming and yelling and enjoying our company, but we're going to scream and yell in our own houses and kind of enjoy the FLL goodness today. We have a lot going on during today's kickoff celebration because we have some amazing guests here to talk about the first LEGO League Challenge season and what teams can expect from the upcoming kickoff conference. We have the first LEGO League program manager for First Canada, Annika Pint. We are excited to welcome Tai Young, who's an athlete, an activist, and a performer, to share how he encourages people of all ages to be physically active and how you can do the same. You want to learn about this year's game? Well, we've got the best source of the game. Long time. When I say long time, I mean long time. First Canada, first LEGO League Challenge volunteer, our provincial head referee, Jeff Locke, who's going to be here to share his in-depth knowledge of the robot game to help teams learn about the rules of everything to do with all of this year's mission. And of course, about prizes. It wouldn't be a First Canada show if we didn't have prizes. And you can win one of them by sticking around for our FLL Challenge themed Kahoot at the end of this morning's festivities. So it's going to be a blast. There's a lot going on. Throughout the show, if you have questions, you're joining us here on Twitch. If this was in person, you could just, raise your hand or whatever. But you're going to do that virtually. You're going to just drop a question into the Twitch chat, and we'll do our best to try and answer it live on the show. Also, remember, we're here to celebrate, the amazing things in this program, which means all of you, and to have a lot of fun. So let's just be like super graciously professional in our comments, and it's going to be a good time. But now, I'd like to welcome our first guest. She's the one who's put in hours and hours of work to put this beautiful event together. She is the first LEGO League Challenge program manager for First Canada, Annika Pint. Hey, Annika, how are you doing this morning?
Thanks. I'm great, Karthik. It's great to be here, and I hope that the viewers are just as excited as I am to be part of today's virtual kickoff celebration.
Yeah, it's going to be great, Annika. And so there's a lot going on. Why don't you tell us a little bit of what you have planned today?
Will do. Yeah, I've just got a couple of slides to pull up here. That's great. So before I do share some of the necessary and also exciting changes that are happening to the first LEGO League Challenge program this season, I would like to take a moment to recognize the uncertainty that I know many coaches are experiencing, and also the many challenges that are associated with adapting to the very harrowing circumstances in which we all find ourselves. Many of you are caring for not only your immediate family members, but also friends, relatives, and neighbors. Many of you are working on the front lines to provide the services that are essential for preserving life and health and basic societal functioning. And all this while preparing to, coach a first LEGO League Challenge team under conditions unlike any that we have ever experienced. And so I get that it may be difficult to imagine how teams will be able to work collaboratively on this year's challenge without the ability to necessarily gather in person. But I believe that there are great innovators in all of you, and that by working together and supporting one another, we can do amazing things. Next slide. Great, and one more. So despite these many challenges that I mentioned, there's never been a more important time to embrace science and technology. In the words of former First President Don Bossy, we really need kids of all ages, backgrounds, capabilities, and social circumstances to contribute and participate in addressing the world's toughest challenges, some of which we are experiencing right now, so that they can make a world a better place for future generations. And we need input and participation from everyone, and we need to nurture every kid's potential to be a leader and an innovator. Next slide. So although the barriers to participation already existed for many populations of students who are traditionally underrepresented in FIRST and in STEM fields. These barriers have significantly increased due to the pandemic, which is why it is also more important than ever that coaches and team members complete the Inspiring Success for All and the Inspiring Youth Voice training modules to explore some of the ways to help remove these barriers and therefore increase opportunities for all students, no matter what their race, ability, or gender identity, to participate in FIRST programs. Next slide. Just to let you know a little bit about the season timeline. So next week, there's a series of really interesting and informative workshops taking place that we hope will help teams prepare for these upcoming remote events. We'll talk more about those throughout the day. And our hope is that by also extending the registration deadline to November 30th and moving the regional qualifying tournaments until February, that teams will have more time to adjust to the new ways of working together, to design, build, and program autonomous robots, to complete missions on our themed playing field for this year, and also to develop those really innovative solutions to real-world problems related to this year's challenge theme. Next slide. Great. So among the many changes to which we've had to adapt in our personal and professional lives, there are also some necessary but also exciting changes to the FLL Challenge program. So as I mentioned, we're going to be having our events remotely this year. And at those events, teams are actually going to meet virtually with judges to perform their innovation project and robot design presentations. And also they'll be submitting recorded videos of their robot matches for scoring by referees. And we'll again take a closer look at that with Jeff a little bit later on this morning. Speaking of judging, the judging process has changed a little bit such that teams are now going to be meeting with one panel of judges for 30 minutes instead of with 3 separate panels of judges for 15 minutes each. And those judges are going to be using a new set of rubrics to evaluate team presentations and the way in which teams demonstrate the core values. Teams can also now use LEGO Mindstorm's EV3 classroom software, which is a bit more like Scratch to program their robots, but they can also build and program using the new LEGO Education Spike Prime hardware and software. And lastly, the engineering notebooks and team meeting guides are available digitally, and those can be accessed using ThinkScape, which is accessible through your FIRST dashboard. And next slide. That's great. And before I pass it back to you, Karthik, I wanted to take a moment to thank the incredible group of people who have come together to make this event happen, including the planning committee, production team, panelists, and presenters. It has been a huge honor to work with all of you, and I'm very grateful for the time and effort that you've invested in making the event possible for members of the FIRST community. And speaking of members of the FIRST community, to all of those of you who are watching and who are finding innovative ways to provide engaging, enjoyable experiences for students while ensuring their safety and well-being, we thank you so much and hope that today's presentations and also next week's workshops give you the tools that you need for a safe and enjoyable season. And we've got a few more folks to thank, and that's our amazing sponsors. So let's take a look at those folks. We couldn't do this without you.
That's fabulous. Great to see that so many people have come together for this event, whether it be, team members, mentors, volunteers, sponsors. It's just that whole kind of networking that, that makes all of this really, really special. So Annika, you did mention that FLL Challenge is doing remote events in Ontario for 2020. Can you give us like a high level look of what that's gonna look like?
Yeah, so we really want to, and we're confident that we're going to be able to recreate the excitement of an in-person event and to be able to honor the learning and the accomplishments of all the teams that are participating. But to ensure the safety of all of our participants, whether volunteers or coaches or team members, we'll be inviting teams to meet virtually with judges. So almost in the same way as we're meeting here today, they would be gathering from their own spaces and finding a way to still convey the information about their innovation project and robot design to the judges, but via a web conferencing tool like this one. And for the robot design, for the robot game, teams will actually be pre-recording videos of their robot matches, and those will be submitted and scored by referees. But like at a real in-person event, teams will still have an opportunity to meet virtually with their referees to go over their scores. And so those are the two main aspects. There'll be some other similarities and differences, but those are the two main things that that teams work towards being ready for an event. And so those things will still happen. And we'll also have some opening and closing ceremonies and a way to really meet and recognize all the teams.
Yeah, it's going to be different, but I think that with this new virtual format, it allows a little bit more accessibility as well, because maybe parents and friends and family who couldn't normally come attend the event with the team are going to be able to see. So I think there's a lot to be learned from this, and I think it's going to be different, but I think it's going to be good, and it's about making do with all these changes. So this week, I know every night from Monday to Thursday, there's this huge FLL Challenge conference happening this week, and I've looked through. Some of these speakers are like, whoa, we've got like an all-star cast. Can you tell us any more details right now?
Yeah, and we'll a little bit later on in the broadcast, we'll check out the location where you can find all of this information. But we've got teams from literally across the world who are going to be joining us. We've got some teams from across Ontario and Canada, from the United States, and even from as far away as Romania. And the thing I like about this conference is that, yes, we've got some really experienced teams and really highly decorated and accomplished teams to share their experience, but we've also got some relatively new teams who were first year teams not that long ago to share their experiences. And I really like that everyone within the FIRST community is going to be sharing their expertise and perspectives from wherever they are in their journey. And so we've had requests for workshops about robot design and programming, about how to create a really engaging innovation project presentation, how to foster core values in a virtual world like the one in which we find ourselves, and also taking a look at how you can foster equity, diversity, and inclusion on your team. So there's a huge spectrum of workshops from which to choose. We've got 24 to choose from, 6 a night for 4 nights, all of which will be recorded. So if you can't tune in, you can check them out later. But of course, it's great to come live, because then you can actually speak with the presenters and ask any questions that you might have about the amazing information that they're planning to share.
Wow, that sounds great. If you want to learn more about the conferences, one of our moderators has posted a link in the chat, so you can click on that website. You see all sorts of good stuff. And you spoke a little bit about ED&I. We have a question from the chat right now, Annika. Is saying that, can you speak to the ED&I work that FIRST Canada has been doing?
Absolutely. And so in addition to the training modules that are available, FIRST Canada also has a youth council that's made up of definitely diverse members, all of whom have placed an emphasis on increasing equity, diversity, and inclusion in FIRST Canada. So we have a variety of campaigns that are happening throughout the year to raise awareness and acceptance about members in the LGBTQ2S plus community, to highlight the accomplishments of members of the Black community and people of color who have contributed to the world of STEM, taking a look at even just different ways that we can protect the environment, and yeah, again, just raising awareness about and making this a really inclusive space for all students to participate.
That's fabulous, and that's so much of the first mission. It began with let's try and inspire people in STEM, but to really do that, you have to work with all communities and give everyone a voice, give everyone a platform. And it's so great to see that that's what FIRST Canada is doing. Annika, thank you so much for your time. You're going to be back lots during this show and throughout the week, so thank you for all that you've done. But before we get to our keynote address, let's take a look at this video from one of our sponsors. All right, we're back. I'd now like to welcome our keynote speaker, who is an active 16-year-old ambassador for multiple agencies, including Holland Bloor Review and Easter Seal. He was a medal runner for the Rick Hansen Man in Motion Tour in 2011 and enjoys wheelchair tennis, monoskiing, and swimming. Not only is he interested in athletics, he's appeared in numerous print ads and commercials and on television and stage. He has worked extensively on the Dear Everybody campaign to bring disability awareness to casting directors, media representatives, and the general public. As soon as you hear today's speaker, he has a very positive attitude towards life and believes that you can do anything you set your mind to. He encourages kids of all ages and abilities to be active and to try new things and believes that fear should not be your disability. Please welcome Ty Young. Hey, Ty, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, hi to everybody watching. My name is Ty and I'm 16 years old. I was born paraplegic, which means that I don't have full use of my legs. So to get around, I use a manual wheelchair. When I was really young, the doctors told my parents that I wouldn't be able to be independent or be able to achieve things like other kids could. And this was after they found out my diagnosis. But my parents didn't believe this, and they gave me a chance to try out sports and be active. And this is something that I feel is missing among youth with disabilities, but also just youth in general. People are too afraid to put themselves out there and find things that they like so that they can have fun. So today I'm going to tell you some of my favorite moments and different stories from different sports that I've had the privilege to play and experience in my life. So the first sport that I'm going to be telling you all about would be swimming. So for me, swimming was never really an option. It's something that I've done since I was super, super young. And that's because my mom works in aquatics and, she works with all the lifeguards. So she's like, no, you have to swim. But something funny that would happen is whenever I would go to the pool, the lifeguards would be pretty frightened and kind of alarmed because, seeing a kid with a physical disability in a wheelchair may not may not read as someone who's able to swim, but quickly I showed them that I was able to by just adapting it and making sure that it could work for me. And you may not expect that I could be able to swim, but all it takes is just, well, rather than treading with your legs, I decided to tread with my arms. And this is something that kept me active and healthy and allowed me to participate with things like my friends at pool parties or going up to the cottage and swimming with the cousins and all of that. So as I got older, I decided to start playing some more sports, and one of these was sledge hockey. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of sledge hockey before, but if you have, that's awesome. If you haven't, you should definitely look up some sledge hockey videos because it's a really awesome sport. So when I was in, I believe it was around kindergarten, my gym teacher, his name was Arnold, he suggested that I try sledge hockey. And I was like, what's that? And basically the way he explained it was it's hockey, but for people with disabilities. And the way that we play is by sitting in this thing that looks like a sled with two or one blade beneath it. And we hold shorter hockey sticks with these metal picks on the bottom. And we use that to propel ourselves forward. And it's not great for the ice, kind of damages the ice, but you know what, it lets everybody be able to play equally and gives everyone a chance. And it's actually really cool because this is a pretty big sport and we have some Canadian hockey teams who have won a lot of gold medals, so you should definitely check it out. So I got older and I decided that I would move on to new things. I wasn't at that school, so I went to public school. And once I got to public school, I decided to participate in the track and field activities. Now, track and field was pretty fun. It was a little bit of a struggle for me to be able to participate in track and field because it was on grass, and wheelchairs versus grass is not the most easiest thing that I've ever done. But you know what? I tried my best to put in a lot of effort and give it a chance. And, a bunch of my teachers really did put in effort to make sure that we could all feel welcome. There was another person in my grade who also used a wheelchair. So we were able to kind of chat with each other and talk about our own needs because they were definitely different. And it was a really fun time. The other issue with track and field that I've had to face was that there aren't many opportunities for people with disabilities to be able to compete or participate. You see, me going against somebody who is running at full speed is not the most ideal because, my chair just doesn't go that fast. And there aren't really that many opportunities for competition. But there is a way to fix this. And all it takes is keeping an open mind and giving everybody a chance and, asking questions, because I would never get offended if somebody wants to ask how they can make something inclusive, because I know that that will definitely help me. Another thing is that I learned throughout doing track and field was that it's not just about the competition, and it's more about the exercise and the bonding, because being able to stay active and do fitness is really important to your mental health and also your physical health. So then, as I got a little bit older, I decided to start playing wheelchair basketball. So, as you may expect, it's the same thing as basketball, but you're just sitting down in a wheelchair. It was a really fun sport, but to be honest, I was kind of terrible at it. But this really did lead me to a lot more opportunities, which, I would have never been able to do if I hadn't had that background with basketball. It kept me active and helped me make tons of friends that even some I still talk to now. So I want to tell you a little bit of a story of when there was really great inclusion at my own homeschool. So we started the basketball unit, and I believe this was like grade 3. Yeah, it was grade 3. We were all playing, and I tried to play with the kids who could stand, but it was very scary because, everyone's a lot taller, they're towering over me. The balls are bouncing everywhere, and it just wasn't working. So my teacher, he is amazing. He decided that he was going to bring in a bunch of wheelchairs for the whole entire class to play. And we all got in wheelchairs, and he did his research. He learned how wheelchair basketball works. He learned the different rule changes. And that was just amazing because I got the opportunity to be able to play with my peers and do a sport that they were all doing on the same level, because it really evens the playing field. Another thing that was really important, um, when I was a lot younger, when I was playing basketball, was that the older teammates were so encouraging, and they were so accepting of me because I was a really young age, and they were like, "Oh, that's okay. Welcome. We'll teach you how to play. We'll help you and mentor you." And I think that that's another really important part about playing sports, because you're able to make these friends and you're able to meet these people and make connections, which you never know could help you for your future career. So then I moved on from basketball and decided to try a new sport, which was wheelchair tennis. Now, this is probably my most favorite sport to play. I absolutely love it. And I try to go every week. I mean, obviously, with COVID, it's really difficult to be able to get out onto the court because social distancing, and it's not that easy. But post COVID or before, I was able to go meet with my teacher, and his name is Ricky, and be able to play with my friends. So, a fun little story of my path through tennis was that I actually started playing wheelchair tennis with kids who are able bodied. And the teachers didn't really know how to teach me. And the reason why I decided to participate in this was because, there wasn't any opportunities for kids with disabilities. There were no wheelchair tennis programs, there was only tennis programs. So the more that I played, I just wasn't getting anywhere because I didn't know what I was doing. And the teachers, unfortunately, didn't have the skills that it took to be able to teach me. So in this scenario, it was difficult, and I had a lot of trouble finding love within the sport because, it just felt like maybe this wasn't for me. But eventually, my friend Jessica, she decided to get in a wheelchair and play tennis with me. And this totally turned things around because she's one of my closest friends, and her being able to participate in a sport that I love really changed the game. And it was just super fun. And she loves it too. She's actually starting to get a little bit better than me. So have to keep working at that. But yeah, tennis is amazing, and it's really similar to standing tennis. The only difference that I face is that it's a little bit like there's a few different rule changes, but it's pretty easy. So eventually I started to improve. So we actually found an adult league for people with disabilities, and I joined it. But the only issue through that was that they actually didn't allow my friend to join, which young me was like really mad about that because I wanted to play with my friends, right? So, it's one of those tough things because it's like, you want to make sure people with disabilities are getting opportunities, but also there weren't that many people in the program to begin with. So it was just kind of figuring that out. But eventually, over time, I found a new program, and there weren't any other kids with disabilities. It was really just me, my friend Jessica, and my other friend Amy, who also got in a wheelchair to play with us. And this program has been what I've been doing since, and it's honestly so fun. So I would say, in terms of tennis, it's a sport that I would recommend everyone try because, it's super fun. But if you are in a position of being able to give students opportunities to play, make sure you have that option of adapting and giving the chance to kids with disabilities because it's really hard to find sports that are quick and easy to adapt. So that would be awesome. And also, coaching is the most important part of a sport like this because my coach, Ricky, he has gone online, he's done tons of research, he's looked up all of these things. He's actually watched tons of different shows on tennis and he's applied it. Even though he doesn't use a wheelchair, he knows it really well. So when I'm not playing tennis in the wintertime, I like to ski. And the way I ski is on something called a monoski. And I'm going to show you some pictures of all of these sports in a little bit. But pretty much the way that it works is similar to a sledge. It's kind of like a bucket that you sit in with one ski on the bottom, and you hold something called outriggers, which is a long metal bar with mini skis on the bottom to help you brake. This is a really, really fun sport. And I've been doing it since I was pretty young, actually. Doing a few races here and there, but nothing crazy. I really just like to go there to, see everybody, have fun, feel of that thrill of like exhilaration going down the hill. It's just amazing. It's a lot of fun, except for when you smack into a tree, but that was just a fluke. That won't happen again. But it's really fun. I really enjoy skiing, and not sure if it's going to happen again this year, but if it does, I'm definitely looking forward to it. So another activity that I love to do is theater and dance. Now, some people don't say this is a sport, but I absolutely think it is. And I absolutely think that it's something that keeps you physically active and healthy. So a lot of people don't expect me to be able to dance because of my wheelchair, but I manage and I try my best to adapt the choreography and ask questions, and my teacher definitely helps me. I actually had the amazing opportunity earlier this year to participate in a project called Dance Vocab, which was filming me doing dance moves in my chair so that people with other disabilities could take a look and they could learn how to adapt specific choreo for them and they could feel just a part of the group. Currently, I am in a theater program, and my teacher, choreographer Lindsay, is absolutely amazing. She always makes sure that I have something to do, and that she doesn't give me other things. She's just like, okay, here's the choreography, and figure it out. And if I have questions, she's always there to answer and make sure that I can get the assistance that I need. I'm the only person who has a physical disability in my theater group, but nobody cares, and I'm really just a part of the group. Last year, I actually played Ren in Footloose, and that's a very dance-heavy role. And I know, there's obviously a lot to adapt with it, but we made it work, and it was one of the most fun experiences of my life. And then the last story that I want to tell you is about fencing. So this was a sport that I did a few years ago. I'm not as active in it as I was then. But basically, the way I got involved with fencing or wheelchair fencing was that I won a free week of camp at this big event. And I went up to them because the two coaches were doing a demo and they were letting people put on the mask and try to hit them with the sword. So I decided to go up and I said, hey, can I try? And they were like, uh, I don't know, like this is kind of sketchy. So they didn't let me do that. So I entered my name into a draw and they actually pulled my number and they said, congratulations, you won a free week of fencing camp. And the coaches were like, okay, so we're doing this. And quickly they did a lot of research and they learned how people with disabilities play fencing and how they get involved. This was so much fun and it was a really big commitment. So, for me, I love playing things for a lot of fun and I love doing them, like I said many times, to have the experience, but I don't always want to compete. And sometimes there was quite a bit of pressure to participate and compete in competitions in the activities just because I can be proficient in learning in these sports. So when I am good at something, it's almost like an expectation that I need to compete. So for some people, it's absolutely a great idea. I think that if you want to participate in these sports and you want to um, take a chance and compete, go for it. But this just wasn't something that I wanted to completely devote my life to because I absolutely love variety and not having to just stick to one thing. Competition is great, but playing for fun is great too. So, throughout what I talked to you all about today, you can see that I've been so lucky to try tons of activities and sports. I was definitely nervous at the start of some of these activities, but it just takes time and practice to be good at something. So, don't expect to be number one after the first few tries and keep working at it because if you love it, you will succeed. And if you don't, try something else that you love. Another option when playing sports too is to encourage your friends to join. Because for me, when my friends joined, it totally changed the game and gave me so much motivation to practice and get better and have fun. When hosting activities, if you're in the position of creating these things, make sure that everybody has an opportunity to participate and be active, and they're welcome and comfortable as they are. Now I'm going to show you some of the pictures. So if someone wouldn't mind pulling up my slides here, I'll talk a little bit about these sports. So this right here is me when I was a lot younger on my monoski. It's called a snowball. That's like the design. And yeah, it's super cool. Those metal things are the outriggers, and that's just me going downhill. Right here is one of my most favorite experiences that I got to do playing Chip in Beauty and the Beast with Unionville Theater Company, which is a theater company close to me. This was incredible. They actually built this box and I was able to sit in it, stick my head out and act like Chip. It was so much fun. Right here is a very young picture of me at one of my first theater competitions, singing one of my most favorite songs called Mr. Cellophane. It was so much fun. I absolutely love theater, and I think that this was the performance that really got me inspired to continue performing. Right here on the left is a picture of me fencing, and on the right is a picture of me trying some new mechanical wheelchair. Basically, there's this wheel that you could attach onto a manual wheelchair, which basically turns it into a motorcycle-like thing. And I was going a little too fast and I fell down, but hey, what can you do? It was a good day. And here is a picture of me at the cottage trying to not get eaten by a shark or something, swimming with my family. And like I said before, being able to participate with all of my friends and just swim in the water was super important because no one wants to feel left out. And trying these activities allow you to do something like that. And I have, oh, one more. This is a picture of me and my sister dancing to one of my most favorite musicals, Dear Evan Hansen. And this was for another project that we did, showcasing disability in dance. And yeah, so I think that that is all from my stories and from my speech, but I'd love to answer some questions if there are any.
Oh, Ty, there are a lot of questions. Chat was really engaged with everything that you had to your entire story, and just inspirational and it's cool. And like, I think there's been a lot of learning. And so I think people want to learn some more. But one question which really applies to this year's first LEGO League Challenge season as well is there a way that any of the sports in which you enjoy participating or other sports could be modified or improved to make them more accessible, whether it be equipment, surfaces, or rules?
Mhm. So right now, mainly the sports that I play would be tennis, I guess theater, and also skiing. So I would say those are pretty good in terms of accessibility and being able to adapt everything. Were they specifically talking about like with COVID and everything like that, or?
No, I think just more in general how we can make play more accessible.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say, asking questions, but maybe not being too, I guess, overbearing and not like constantly saying, do you need help with this? Do you need help with that? Because I know for me, I like to just kind of do it. And if I have a problem, I will tell you. Now, not everyone will be like this. So, like I said, maybe just say, hey, this is a safe space for you to share if you have any concerns. And if you need to participate in something, let us know and we will make it work. And it just takes working through it, maybe doing a Google search, finding out how to adapt, because I can't necessarily say how someone else's ability may be impacted, um, and how they may need the thing changed. So, doing your research and asking them is probably the best bet.
That makes a lot of sense. And so very similarly to that is, you know, on a robotics team, like you're working together, you have to all come together to solve a common goal. And you've talked about, whether it be in theater, the dance classes, or even in your gym classes, how the teams come together. But
Mhm.
how can team members be more supportive and more inclusive when working together on a project like First Lego?
Mhm. Well, I definitely think that something important is making sure that everyone's voices are heard. And, when you're contributing to a conversation, going around the room and saying, hey, do you have something to add? Do you have something to add? And making sure that people feel comfortable that they will be heard and their ideas will be listened to. Because, sometimes that's the biggest barrier. It's just people feeling like maybe they're overlooked. And as long as you can show them that they aren't, people will open up and people will um, participate to the conversation.
That's some great advice. A lot more questions. We're going to try and get through as many of them as we can. But there's one question specifically about the background you have there, Ty. It looks fantastic. Could you tell us a
Thank
little
you.
bit about it?
For sure. So another thing that I really love doing is filmmaking and like writing scripts, making short films and such. So when I think it was like for my 10th birthday or something, my parents asked one of our friends who's an artist to design this backdrop of like paparazzis and cameras. And they put it up in my house because they surprised me with this like premiere for my film that I made with my friend. And then yeah, so that's pretty much why. And my background is like not the most flattering, so we just decided to put this in to make
It,
things a
oh,
little
it,
more.
it looks fabulous. So that
Thank
worked out
you.
really, really well. You listed so many activities that you participate in, but which one's your favorite?
My favorite one would have to be tennis, and that's honestly because I get to see my friends and I get to play with them and just bond with them because I'd consider them probably my closest friends. And we all get to do the same activity. If we lose, we like playfully make fun of each other,
Oh,
and
of
it's
course.
just like a good time.
Yeah, yeah.
So that would probably be my favorite.
So, like, what's the point of playing with your friends if you're not going to tease them a little bit? You
Oh,
know?
absolutely. And
Yeah,
that's something we do all the time. My friends always like, "Oh, you're not winning." Like,
yeah, yeah.
yikes. And I'm like, well,
Like the only reason I have friends is so we can roast each other. Like that.
exactly,
That's how it's got
exactly.
to go.
Hmm.
Um, what other sports would you like to play that you haven't had a chance to try?
Ooh. I mean, my mom would probably get really mad at me for saying this, but I would love to try rugby one time. I don't know if I would want to like necessarily pursue that because I know that's like a really physically exhausting and sometimes dangerous game, but I think it would be a really cool thing to give it a try. I mean, it's not really a sport, but I've always wanted to skydive. Maybe that would be cool.
That that would be cool. I've not. I'm definitely not skydive. That would be like super awesome. But yeah, like when you watch wheelchair rugby, it's like whoa, like this is great. Like you mentioned sledge hockey earlier, and I remember I watched a
Mhm.
documentary on the Canada-U.S. sledge hockey rivalry, and it's like, yeah, this
Yeah.
is intense. Really great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Another question is, you mentioned that your coach did a lot of research on wheelchairs. Can you
Mhm.
speak about how this helped change or improve your experience participating on a team?
Definitely. So if I'm just comparing it to like the first experience when I was with a bunch of able-bodied kids in a different program, they didn't really know how to adapt things. They didn't really know how to teach me how to play. But when Ricky, my new teacher, did all this research, it didn't necessarily like affect him that much. He just had to do a few searches. But what it did was it showed that he knew how to play. So he actually got in a wheelchair and he showed us how to move. He showed us how to grip our wheels and how to actually do those technical things, which I wouldn't have learned had he not learned them himself. Um, and it really allowed us to see the things that we were learning and actually um, get involved while the teacher understood what we were saying.
Hmm.
And it wasn't just like, oh, push the wheel, hit the ball. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the like the detailed strategy in there. That's really cool that it was the
mhm,
learning opportunity for not just you, but for all your teammates and your classmates there.
definitely.
Question. They prefaced it with maybe this is a weird question, but remember, there's no such thing as like a weird question. People are just trying
Never,
to learn. Exactly.
for sure.
Um, but is integration of wheelchair athletes into able-bodied athletics a thing? Could that be dangerous just because of the equipment? Thinking of context, like
Mhm. You see, yeah. So that's a little bit of a difficult question because, everybody's disability is different. Um, or I mean, for people with disabilities, everyone has different levels of need and mobility. So, it's a bit hard to say. Like, I know for me, my friends are participating in a sport for people with disabilities, so it's kind of the other way around. But, I do like to, like, when I would do track and field, I would race against some of the kids who were running. I would never win, of course, but like, I just did that for fun. So, I think that if it's deemed safe in the situation and you can kind of, you know, use your own judgment there. Yeah, I think it's possible, but I think it's always best to maybe modify things to help the person with the disability rather than the other way around.
right. Yeah, I know. In track and field, there's been a few very prominent runners who've used the prosthetic blades, like Blake Leeper
Hmm.
from the U.S. And I mean, last summer he ran a 45-second 400 meter, which is like an elite level time, and
Hmm.
he actually tried to qualify for the U.S. World Championship team. So it's really
Hmm.
amazing to see, like, yeah, there's some spaces where they can compete side by side, but like you said, it's about making sure that people are on the same platform and
Hmm. Definitely.
equitably, which is really cool. There's also, there's a lot of questions in chat, but there's also a lot of comments, and I just wanted you to hear some of these. Really important. But multiple people said, thank you so much for sharing so openly with our community. I think everyone just appreciates hearing these stories. And mono skiing sounds terrifying, but I would love to hit the slopes with you at some point. I think that's one that's generally there. And
It's
then,
pretty scary, to
yeah,
be honest.
and you are an inspirational role model. So thank you for being
Thank you.
here. And just in general, we've had some great comments and questions from our chat. So thank you for being so interactive with all of that chat. And one, I guess, final fun question is like, what other costumes have you had? Because those were awesome.
What other costumes?
Costumes when doing theater.
Ooh, okay. So in my theater group, we put on one show each year, but also we go to Syracuse, New York, and we compete with a bunch of different performance like numbers, which means I have a ton of costumes. So we did one number from Wicked, um, which was really cool. I had like these green glasses and this green bow tie. My hair is green, but it wasn't then. Um, we did Book of Mormon, so I dressed like a Mormon for that one. We did what else did we do? We did tons of stuff. We did like The Greatest Showman. We did Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, where I dressed like super regal and like I played Pierre in that, so that was super cool. But yeah, I've had a ton of different things.
As a huge fan of like musical theater in general, like I'm
Yeah.
like in awe right now. This is amazing hearing all this, Ty. We could probably chat for hours. So like this is amazing. Our chats really resonated with this. The audience has loved everything you've got to say. Ty, thank you so much for being a part of the show and supporting First in general and just coming out these events. And we can't wait to do this again. This was really, really great. Any final words for our audience, Ty?
Thank you so much for listening and, asking these awesome questions. It was so nice talking to you all, and I hope you all have a great day and enjoy the rest of the conference.
For sure. Thank you for inspiring us and, to remain and become physically active and encouraging others how to do the same. So now it's time to meet our teams. But before we do that, let's take a look at a quick word from our sponsors.
When I was applying for co-ops, I was really looking for a place that would allow me to have the greatest amount of experience. And since Hatch is such a big company, I knew that I would be able to get involved with all the different groups that the company offers.
What surprised me about working at Hatch was the amount of responsibility that you're given very quickly, like once you start.
There's so many opportunities to learn, not just from specialists in the field, but also from something like Lunch and Learns or even Safety Shares. So it's not something technical that I'm learning, but something that might help me in my everyday life.
For me to be able to just walk into their office and ask them whatever I want, to schedule a meeting whenever I want, to be able to work directly with them on building things was an insanely good experience.
As a student, I am as much valued as the other employees that are here.
I enjoy working here because people are very friendly, and this environment that they created has been more than absolute perfect.
All right, well, we're back for another segment here at our FLL Challenge Kickoff Celebration. I'd like to welcome back Annika Pint. Hey, Annika, how are you doing?
Great to be back. That was so inspirational and interesting.
What was your favorite part?
Oh my gosh, it was humbling because I can barely make toast, never mind do all of these like really challenging activities. So I'm inspired to do something more than make toast.
If it makes you feel better, I too am terrible at making toast. I end up carrying the bread when I'm trying to spread the butter, or the butter's cold, or what's wrong
with us?
Yeah,
we need a robot to do this for us.
Right. We need more ties in our lives,
Yes.
Annika. Just like wow. And that's the cool thing when we come to these FLL events, because it's humbling, because we just see all of you, our audience, who are students, who are just so impressive. We were actually on First Canada Live just the other night, and we were all discussing about how, without argument, we're convinced that First LEGO League students are better programmers than First Robotics Competition students on average, because with First LEGO League, everyone does such a good job of making sure that everyone on the team gets involved, that everyone's touching a piece of that. And so just all of you right now, you're probably, some of you might even be new to this, and you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to figure this out. This is intimidating. But trust me, the First LEGO League program brings so much together, and you are capable, and you will do awesome things. And by the end of this, you're all going to be robot rock stars, which is so cool. Like, we're at the beginning of this journey, and I can't wait to see when all of you join us for our remote events and what it will be like. But speaking of our audience, Annika, I think it's time to meet some of our teams who are attending today's kickoff celebration and who are competing in this year's FLL Challenge Replay season. So make sure to cheer when you see and hear your names.
If you cheer loudly enough, we'll hear you.
All right, and so we've got Team 458, Excited DC.
Team 3877, Bendale Jr. Public School.
Team 44740, Quantum.
And Team 1640, the Armorites.
Team 44644, the Corpus Christi Cougars.
Team 1338, KCS A.
Team 27345, KCS B.
Team 4246, KCS C.
Team 3954, Raybots.
Team 37760, Maple Robot.
Team 13685, Wildbots.
Team 24197, RoboLinks.
Team 1564, popular in Toronto, Innovative Raccoons.
Team 1650, the Kateribots.
Team 1648, Langtree Lego Builders.
Team 21283, the Panthers. I get all the caps.
Team 50666, St. Gabriel Thunder 1.
Team 31049, Dragobots.
Team 56564, Unknown Solver.
Team 45059, the Shredders.
Team 44642, a Keep Franco Boutique.
Team 23608, Rock.
Team 5697, Pigeons.
Team 44847, GERT Bots.
Team 44462 L cubed.
Team 37553 R252.
Team 50421 SKT Robotics.
Team 38431 Yum Ice Cream and Pie.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Team 38463 Technados.
Team 44646 the BSS Botz.
Team 45025 Smart Diamond.
Team 37707 Time Shifters.
Team 38479 Funnelbait.
Team 30691 Saint FX Bots.
Team 12513 T-Bots.
Team 44509 the Ice Dragons.
Team 49029 Lego Shapers.
Team 27091 UMS.
Team 45233 Top Half Eagles.
Team 41898 KVH.
Team 46779 Glacier Bay.
Team 5930 Jave Champions.
Team 50931 Robot.
Team 5932 the Robo Dominators.
Team 50440 Entheran.
Team 5944 the Electro Clan.
Team 17818 Notre Dame.
Team 44851 Tacos.
Delicious. Team 51045 Playbots 1.
Team 4047 Flame X.
Team 16539 Robo Ducks Quack.
Team 287 Maven School 1.
Team 288 Maven School 2.
Team 51084 the New Market Brick Stars.
Team 51093 Lightning Tech.
Team 49026 the Win Mines.
Team 32893 Lego Legends.
Team 34235 the Big Brain Builders.
Team 34570 Runners.
Team 1483 Lakeview Spare Parts.
Team 1485 Lakeview Vipers.
Team 3436 eBots 1.
Team 38126 Alpha Pups 46.
Team 42903 the Mecha Martins.
Team 51167 2021.
Team 35220 the Northmount Knights 2.
Team 51227 Mill Pond Academy.
Team 8404 Team Not Found.
But we found them, they're right there. Team 45021 Oxford Learning Academy.
Team 48585 6 Lego Bricks.
Team 51306 Game Changers.
Team 3939 Talos.
Team 5875 eBots 2.
Team 5369 Fish 11.
Team 47957 HHA grads.
Team 51362 the Richmond Hill Electro Gods 8.
Team 37527 Brave Robots 2.0.
Team 51379 2 Meows.
Meow. Team 31400 Texzenic Knights. And congratulations to all of our teams, and hope you have a great season. That we've got so much going on. And did you know the FLL Challenge first came to Ontario in 2003 with a Mission Mars season?
Ooh, I'm wondering if we have any coaches or volunteers that might have been around all this time.
Way back when, yeah. And then since then, the number of teams in Ontario has grown to over 515 in 2019. And in 2019, Canada had over 960 of the world's 40,000 FLL Challenge teams. First of all, 40,000 teams across the world, that's like a lot. But 960 in Canada alone, that's pretty amazing. So
yeah, it's sweeping the nation.
Thank you to all our teams, and thanks for Nick for compiling the video. This has been fabulous. But I think it's time to learn a little bit about the robot game. So we will be doing that in just a couple seconds.
Synnex Canada is a leading provider of the latest and greatest technology products and solutions to more than 8,000 resellers throughout Canada. Headquartered in Fremont, California, Synnex operates its technology business in the United States, Canada, Japan, and Mexico, and has a presence in over 25 countries throughout the world. Synnex also provides solutions, customer care, and business services for many of the world's leading-edge businesses through subsidiaries, Hive Solutions, and Concentrix. Synnex has over 40,000 of the world's best and brightest minds collaborating on exciting and innovative projects. Synnex may be a big player, but our business is still about people. People that understand how to put technology to work to make a difference, in business and in their day-to-day lives. Synnex employees make a visible impact and are recognized and rewarded for their contributions. Synnex, putting people first.
All right, it's time for some robot game action, some robot table action to learn about all these good missions. So please welcome the FLL Challenge provincial head referee, longtime volunteer, and he knows everything about these missions. It's Jeff Locke. Hey Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Looks like you are in a cozy garage there, and you're going to be telling us all about the 2020-2021 game. So please, Jeff, take it away.
I am. Ty is going to be a hard act to follow, but I will do my best. We have some slides. Welcome to everybody, all the teams, especially all our rookie teams. Welcome to your very first season, and I hope you have a massive amount of good time while you are learning. So if we can advance the slide. Just a little about me. I've been doing this, as Karthik said, a very long time. I started way back in 2005 with Ocean Odyssey. I then got involved as a tournament director, then a referee, then a referee at an international festival where I was inspired to go to do World Festival refereeing. I got asked to take over from our previous amazing head referee, Peggy Scott, 2015, and I've been the head referee for Ontario since then. Last year, I also refereed First Tech Challenge for the first time, so new things. And I also mentor an FLL team and an FRC team. And in all that, in my spare time, I teach, which gets away in the way of my robot fun time sometimes. But I do enjoy doing that as well. Then flip. I always get asked about my favorite season. And thinking about that, I always say 2008, and it's not because it wasn't successful or was successful for my team, but 6 of those kids are now adults. They are graduating university last year and this year, and they are still involved as volunteers, and we still see each other all the time, and it's great. They've actually, they're now in their mid-20s, so we've become friends, and do lots of things together, and one of them even helped with this presentation together. So it's been great, and the one thing I can say is stay involved, because even after you finish, if this is your last season, there are still lots of ways to stay involved in First LEGO League. And as a volunteer, you see it from a whole different perspective, and it's even more fun sometimes. And now let's get to the game. So First LEGO League, some things have changed, some things remain the same as in previous years. The robot game is played by an autonomous robot, which means that once it leaves the launch area, it needs to be going on its own. And if you interfere with it, that is called an interruption. And we will deal with those later. Hopefully there won't be too many of those this year. The robot can only be built from Lego elements and Lego technology. That includes string and elastics. There should not be any tape. Lego does not make tape. And there is no such thing as Lego glue either. So you have to build a fairly robust robot that's going to stay together on its own. And then you can take it apart at the end of the season, and next year build a whole new robot that does all new things. This year you can use the Spike Prime platform. They are available now. You can get them. They're about the same price as an EV3 if your team is trying to decide which one to go for, if you don't have either. So the Spike Prime, it's a little different. It does come with a lot of cool building elements. A lot of them are used in this year's mission models. All the cool magenta and light blue and some of the yellow pieces and those lovely blue wheels are all Spike Prime parts. And I'm sure that after this season, we're going to see them incorporated into robots in the future. And also new for this year is the programming, where you don't have to use the Mindstorms programming language. They opened it up a little in the past. They've opened it up a ton this year to any programming language. So if you have somebody on your team who wants to learn or is interested in Python or Java or any one of the many programming languages that I don't know, they can do that. And as long as you can explain to the judges, you are good to go. Matches remain 2.5 minutes of nonstop time. Once you start, you can't call a timeout. So it's going to go right to the buzzer. And hopefully everybody has lots of programming for that. If your team can only get so much done, that's fine too. But once you hit 2.5 minutes, the time does stop. And although the missions are numbered in the rules, you don't have to do them in that order. So any order for the missions, but you do have to watch for there's 2 end of match conditions this year that you can choose between. So you do have to watch for those because they do have to be done at the end. But other than that, you can do them in any order you want, multiple missions at a time, 1 mission at a time, whatever the team decides. And you do get some setup time before the timer is started, but in the rules, it only has to be 1 minute. So I know that teams are going to be videoing at home, and at home you're going to feel you have lots of time to set up. But just remember that in real competition, it probably shouldn't be more than 2 or 3 minutes, and you should be able to do it in 1 minute without a problem. And if we go to the next slide. So even though we're running most of our rounds from home this year, it's still only 2 technicians at a table. And if you do have more than 2 people somehow in the area where you're running your robot, they can switch in, as long as you make sure you're doing this following, physically safe rules and things like that. But it has to be pretty clear which 2 people are at the table at any one time. And again, the robot leaves, it starts doing stuff on its own, and the rest of the team can stand by. If your team can't be there, they can always watch from Skype or FaceTime and get some cheering going on, which would be great because it's nice to have that appreciation and those fans. You can have, and the nice thing this year is with that, you can also have family members or people who are far away also Skyping in and or Zooming in or whatever platform you're using, and that would give you more support, make it feel a little bit more like you're in a big giant crowd, which is great. And then new in 2019 and continuing this year, there is no little side table anymore. So all the stuff you're using during a match has to be on the table in the home area during the match. So that would then definitely be something you have to consider, because I know working at home, you feel you have more area, but you are limited to the table. Change the slide. This year, they've changed a little bit of the height limits. The inspection area height limit is still 12 inches. And if you are videoing this, it helps to have a ruler standing up on your table, which helps the referee see what's going on, because obviously they're not going to be standing next to you. But once the inspection is done, the height limit goes away and you can go as high as you want. So if you have something that's folded down, then you can fold it up. There is a little warning from our game designer, Scott Evans, who says that if you're using what are called gravity hammers, which are those giant 4-foot tall arms that just fall on the table in places, he really just doesn't like those personally. So if he sees a lot of those, he's probably going to put the height limit back in. He'd much rather see creativity in the robot build than just giant gravity hammers. If you don't know what a giant gravity hammer is and you never learn, that would be great, because then you'll never have one. Also new for this year, last year we could only tape one edge of the mat. This year we can tape the east and west borders of the mat using thin electrical tape, but try and keep the tape only on the black border and the wooden part of the table and not on the white part of the mat, so that the border is still fairly visible. And you also want to be as accurate as possible with that dual lock and mission model placement, because the more accurate you are, the more success you're going to have. As for tables, a few years ago, they started phasing in a shorter walled table using 2x3s instead of 2x4s. A lot of teams still have the 2x4s. I have 14 of them. So, using them for my teams in my area, but if you have a shorter one, that's fine. You can't just have a mix. You can't have like the east and west ends being 3 inches and the north and south being 4 inches on top of looking a little weird. That's not going to work for the robot. So as long as you're the same size all the way around, you're good. And if you haven't seen it yet, that is what the table looks like from above when it is all set up. You do not have to paint the home area black. This one just happens to be. If it's just wood color or any color, that's fine. It doesn't have a designated color. So don't worry if your home area is not painted. If you want to paint it, that's fine too. Nice in pictures. Now let's get to some specifics. And that is the inspection areas, which again have a height limit of 12 inches during inspection. There's the small inspection space and the large inspection space. And all your stuff has to fit in one or the other. You can't use the whole thing for inspection. If you're only in small inspection, then you get a point bonus. If you're in large inspection, you don't get the bonus. If you have stuff and it doesn't fit in large inspection, you have way too much stuff and you can't use that during the match. It doesn't have to be assembled as you would use it in the game. You can have it, and you can use your arms to hold it into the space. So you can kind of, wrap yourself around it just to fit in the space, show that it fits, height limit at all, and then you're good to assemble whatever you need. The red dotted line there is a continuation of the arc from the mat, and it goes straight across just to show you kind of where the two areas border. You're in one or the other. And it has to be within the inside walls of the table. You can't have stuff hanging off the edge of the table either. If we then look at the home and home area on the next slide. So this year, the home area not only includes both inspection areas, but also that inner quarter circle on the mat. So not the logoed area with all our amazing sponsors, but the gridded area is also home. So when a robot is coming home, if you were a team last year, it had to come off the mat onto that little table area. This year, it can stay on the mat in that quarter circle area as well. So that's all home. So it's a lot easier for the referees. They don't have to distinguish, and the teams don't have to distinguish and worry about that border. So you have that entire huge area as home. So once inspection is done, the home area gets very, very large, which is nice for teams. But on the next slide, we see that the launch area is just the mat. So when you're launching the robot, when the robot's going out to do missions, it has to fit in that area. Now, there is no height limit on launch, but it does have to be contained within the inside of the wall to the south and on the edge of the mat, but not past on the west. So, and the quarter circle for the north and the east. You have to be careful with that. So you can't go gigantic. That is about an 18-inch quarter circle radius, so it is pretty big. For your field setup, make sure your mat is flush against the south and east walls, not centered, because then you won't have as big a home area. And we talked about the tape and the precision tokens, which are those lovely red discs, start on the field, not on the wall or in the referee's hand. And they start in the southeast triangle that's way on the other end of the mat from the home area. They shouldn't be in the way, hopefully, and that would be a good place for them. And then they're removed virtually somehow by the referees if there's interruption penalties, which I hope there's not a lot of. And always check your precision and orientation of all the field models. Make sure everything is there, because the worst thing that can happen is the robot goes out to do something and something is missing from the field, and then it can't complete missions that it needs to complete. There is some benefit of the doubt, but it does usually affect the overall scoring. Go to the next slide. So there's lots of stuff on the table this year. there are what I call useful loose models. That's the stuff that's not dual lockdown. And then there's the other stuff. So there's a whole checklist there, which if your team wanted to recreate to make sure they had everything, that would be great. The loose models, the 36 other that I call the different multi-different colored health units, and the season tiles and the coach pins, and the new really awesomely colored teal brick separator instead of the old orange one. They're all not part of the game this year. They are mostly in bag number 9 when you are building. So those, if you put them aside, those can be given out. Coaches, mentors can decide who's taking those home at the end of the season or what you're doing with them. There is stuff that starts in home, the 3 green health units, the 2 red cubes, 2 blue cubes, a yellow cube, and all 8 green cubes all start in home. They can start anywhere in that whole home area, wherever the team feels that they need to be. They are not part of your inspection, by the way, when you come for inspection. So if they're in the small area, you can move them out. You don't have to worry about them for inspection. And if we look a little bit more on field setup, just make sure the loops tend to get a little beat up over the season. So make sure they're rounded and they're not rotated or on an angle. Try and keep everything in as good condition as possible. Tighten things so they move easily. Check your axles every now and then. And the string on the rowing machine is a little bit stronger string than Lego has provided in the past, but you still want to check that every now and then for fraying. And when you're building that model, making sure it goes the right way around all the little pulleys so that it works properly. Now move on to the missions. Just a little quick shout out here to Kendra Whitlock, who's refereed in Sarnia and our Ontario Championships, East and West, and the World Festival referee, for helping me out with all the mission model photography and construction. We usually build 27 field kits in a year. This year we're only building 8, but she does spend quite a lot of time hanging out in my open air garage building Lego on top of her regular job. Very much appreciated by her. And now on to mission with 0, inspection bonus. So we talked about technicians placing all the equipment, which is what I call your stuff, or in this case, their stuff for grammar, into either the small or large inspection space. This includes the innovation project, which is built with all that lovely white bag 8 level Lego that you get. There are a couple of gray pieces, that's fine, but it should be white or almost 100% white. If you want to use other white Lego, that's fine too. It doesn't just have to be the stuff in the bag. The points are scored if all your equipment fits in that small inspection space. If not, the large inspection space, which is about 50% bigger, is fine. There is that 12-inch height limit for both spaces. Mission 1 is that innovation project. You can build whatever you want. I built a little hashtag symbol because I thought it would look good in front of the word replay. And it just moves either into the replay logo, which is just east of the launch area, or to the gray area around the bench to the north. It has to be this year at least 2 white Lego pieces put together, and it has to be at least 4 studs for the little knobs on top in at least one direction. There was a lot of confusion last year, so that was cleared up to be just as long as it's 4 studs in one direction and 2 pieces together, it's good. It can only score in one area. Most of our scoring is done at the end of the match after the buzzer. So it is either in one area or another. It's impossible for it to be in both. And even if you built a giant one that's stretched, you would only get points for one area. Both areas are the same points, so it doesn't really matter which one you're in. Mission number 2. Change is the step counter. The step counter is an interesting model. It's along the south wall, and there's a little green tab, a light green. And what you might have noticed the past few years is that every year, to make it better for our spectators, there is one color that indicates motion, and this year is that light green. There's been yellow, orange, and blue in the past. So as you push that little green panel, the pointer, which is attached to the slider on the gears, moves forward, and it can go from the magenta to the yellow to the blue section. The blue section is fairly small, which is why it's hard to see in the picture. When you are building this model, be careful, because when you go to test it, if you push too hard, the entire model locks up. And it does say in the rules that it should be a slow and steady push. And you'll find that if you push slowly, then it will work. But if you push too fast, the entire thing does jam up. That is not a model flaw. That is how it is designed. So be careful with that one. Mission 3, we have the 2 gray minifigures, one on top of the slide, one at the very bottom. And your goal is to get them off the slide, one or both. Bring one to home, bring one onto the heavy tire, supported only by the heavy tire and nothing else. You can score 1 minifigure in each area. You can score 1 off or 2 off. There's lots of different scoring combinations on this mission. It's fun. It slides off pretty easily. So it should be a highly successful mission. Mission number 4, which is the bench just north of the launch area, starts upright and with the backrest in position. And then you have some options. You can take the backrest out, or you can leave it in. You can put the bench down, or you can leave it up. But if you put the bench down, you can start filling the hopscotch spaces with cubes. And there are 4 spaces. Just note that it's the spaces that are counted, not the number of cubes. And mission 5, the basketball. Crate starts all the way down, and the robot has to lift the crate. And there's 2 little positions. There's 2 pieces where it will stay in the middle, which is kind of a third of the way up, or at the full top height. You can score a basket using a green cube. The basket counts no matter where the crate is, at the lowest, middle, or top. And the crate will score at middle and top, even if it doesn't have a cube in it. So again, lots of options for mission 5. Mission 6, the pull-up bar. This is one of the few missions that's scored during match. And as long as your robot passes 100%, so wires, attachments, everything under the bar, you're good. It can go north to south or south to north. It does not matter. And then other points can be scored at the end of the match if your robot is pulling itself up on the bar. In the picture, that robot was placed on the bar, sitting there, and that is extremely impossible to do, or not impossible, but very hard. I would suggest just pull up would be a lot easier. And that is scored at the end of the match. So it has to be there at the buzzer. Falls after the buzzer, that is fine, but as long as it's at the buzzer. Mission 7 is our robot dance move, where the controller, whether you're using an RCX or an NXT or an EV3 or the new Spike Prime one, is over the dance floor, which is the little tic-tac-toe grid, and it's in a move it. So it has to be moving, not just parked. And you can only score one of those. You can't score both the dance and the hang. So you pick whatever one your team would like to do. Mission 8 is the bocce. This one, I think, is going to be a little bit confusing to teams because there is so much going on. It is the cooperative mission. So teams need to communicate. Now, in a virtual match, that is not going to be possible, but it will be assumed that a cube has been sent over, whatever color the team chooses. But you should not be sending both over. Send both over, then that voids that part of the scoring. The cube that's sent over can be anywhere on the field, but the rest of the cubes, in order to score points, should be in the frame. And the yellow cube, to score its bonus points, has to be completely 100% in the target area, but the target area does extend all the way to the wall. Not every mat is cut the same. Mission 9, we have the tires. We have the smaller, lighter blue tire and the big black tire. They start green, centers up, and you just have to flip them over. You just need to be careful that the big black tire never crosses the red line to the west, or the scoring doesn't count. So you can't bring that one back to the launch area and flip it by hand. The robot has to do the flipping. And mission 10. The cell phone's a fairly straightforward mission. All you have to do is flip it over like you're not using it anymore, which I know for some people might be a very difficult thing to make. They like their cell phone. Turn your cell phone off for a bit and treadmill is a spinning mission. The robot just parks there and can spin or come up with some other way to do it. And you just want to spin that pointer as far as you can, as fast as you can, from the white all the way around. And for each color that you pass, your points go up. However, if the robot at any time touches that gray pointer, the mission scores 0. So you can't just move the pointer, you've got to move the treadmill wheels, which are green. And mission 12 is the rowing machine. So here, and again, you got to be a little gentle with this mission because you don't want to rip the string. It is the entire piece of string that is used when you are setting up this mission. It's not just part of it. And you just pull the wheel out, and then for more points, you put it in the small target circle and completely in. So it's partially in, it doesn't score those. Mission 13 is the weight machine. This is the one where the team gets to have a little bit of say pre-match. And if you've built your models, you'll be familiar with this. If you haven't built them, I suggest building them soon. The little yellow stopper goes above either the blue, magenta, or yellow area. Blue is the easiest one to lift, the yellow is the hardest. And then during the match, you just try and push it so that the stopper goes underneath and keeps the wheels up. The stronger to prove how strong your robot is. And then you leave it there so you can only score 1, but it's whatever one you pre-chose at the beginning of the match. You cannot change that during the match. And number 14 is the health units. For this one, you do need to be careful. They're facing the right way. I put in that little overview of what they look like. So there's the rounded side and the stud side. So just make sure they're facing the right way on the table so that your robot can pick them up as easily as possible. 3 of them start at home. 5 of them are all over the table, making this a very challenging mission to get them all, but I'm sure it will happen. At the end, you're collecting them and you're bringing them around. They can be touching the replay logo, much like the innovative project model, the white model can be, or the bench area as well. But for extra points, you can put four of them on the loops on the pull-up bar. The only thing you have to be careful is that at the end, it can't be touching any equipment. So if your robot is hanging on the bar and it touches any of your health units, those health units don't score. You have to be very careful on your placement. You don't want to take those points away. And finally, we have our precision tokens that are worth points. And as you commit interruptions, they are removed, and whatever's remaining on the table at the end scores. That is not, they're not all equal. So check the scoring on those carefully, because the first couple are worth a lot more points than the last couple. And here is a sample of what a score sheet is. It is available online, so that does help you kind of get an idea of what missions you are doing, what you need to do, little reminders. Notice there's no points on them because referees aren't really concerned with points. We're concerned with rules, and then we let the computers and the scorekeepers handle all the points. There is a nice little app that you can get for scoring this year's replay mission that was written by a couple of brothers in the States, the Session brothers. They write a very nice app, and it also has a timer on it and a stopwatch, which you can use to calculate your own scoring at home, which is a very nice, and it's free. And then just some tips on virtual run recordings, because I did a tournament in the spring, just that your camera should be set up so it doesn't move. Tripods are great, or a type of stand, or anything where you can get that camera where it doesn't slide. Enough back from the table that you can walk in front of it in case you have to suddenly rescue your robot, because you don't want to be knocking over the camera. And once you find a position, be happy with it. We're not expecting like George Lucas, Steven Spielberg productions on the video. It's very hard to get the entire table. If you get 90% of it, we don't really need to see the precision token corner because the robot's really not interacting there. So if you're going to give up a corner of the table, that would be it. So that would be fine. Try not to mess with it too much. But after the runs, it does really help if you can take the camera quickly and kind of do close-ups of any areas where, like for the rowing machine, where it has to be completely in the circle, to kind of do an overview of that. But we should be able to also see that no one's messing with the table while you're moving the camera. So so if you can set it up, take it and move it and then set it up again, that's really good. And just in case anybody's missing my hat, there's a little picture of that in there. And I think now we have some time, hopefully, for some questions.
Thanks, Jeff. That was really, really informative. And because it was so informative, we got some really good questions in here, some detailed, some more general. There's one comment to start off with. Your hat was missed. That was chat's, excited to see the hat, and hopefully we'll be seeing it as we go through a remote event. So some of these specific ones, and we really want to make sure we get to these ones, Jeff, because you're the expert here. And this is a great opportunity for our teams to get answers from the source. So how will the cooperation missions be scored if there is no team to collaborate with on a second table?
So for the collaboration mission, right now, unless there's an update, and I should remind teams that there already are 4 updates that came out on the very first day. So you should be checking those fairly often. But for those, we're either going to, there is discussion on this. We're going to assume that the color you wanted has been sent over, or they might just make the decision that no cube will be sent over, and then nobody gets the points for that cube. So either way, it's going to be consistent and fair for all the teams.
All right, and when will teams get that clarification, and how do they get that clarification?
Hopefully very soon. I think right now we're going with the no cube sent over one, because that is easier.
Awesome. Question about mission number 6. What is considered the robot, and could we suspend only the brick if it is not touching any other hardware? Can there still be wires going from the brick to the hardware?
I have a robot here. Just happen to have one. So the robot is it is everything. So it's the microprocessor brick. It's your sensors, your motors, your wires, all your Lego axles, everything. So the whole robot, 100% of it has to be suspended. So you can't just like loop something over. All of it has to be there.
Okay, that makes sense. For mission number 10, are there restrictions on where the flip can occur? I.e., can the phone come back to base, flip by hand, and then return?
There are no restrictions on mission number 10. Go nuts.
There we
Whatever
go.
you want, just flip that phone over and leave it somewhere outside of the launch area.
So I think the answer to that one is, be creative. And I think the asker of that question came up with a pretty neat strategy.
The only condition on that one is it has to be on the mat when it's flipped over. So it can't be off the table in the home area. So it's got to be on the mat somewhere.
All right. So it has to be on the mat. In bocce, if you send both red and blue cube for color match and the other team sends blue, will the team still get points for color match?
No, because you can only send one. So if you send red and blue and then hope whatever they send matches, you can only send one of the two. So you have to choose. And that's where in a physical match with cooperation, that then the communication between the teams. I think that's why right now they're going with don't send any, and because the other team clearly isn't there to send any.
We had another question from chat, and it's actually about the project, but Annika Pence sent an answer for us, so I'll just read this out for everyone. How will we be showing our judges project? Well, this year, teams are going to come up with an innovative way to show the judges while meeting with them in a virtual web conference, kind of like Zoom or something along the lines. So some teams are choosing to create different components of the prototype or multiple copies of the prototype so that team members in different homes can still refer to and show a physical model to the judges. So it's kind of working in that way. Jeff, do you have any insight or maybe like tips for teams doing a project this year?
I would the teams are going to get very creative. You can never tell an FLL team something is impossible, because then they will find a way to do it. And that's the best part of First Lego League. But I would say because the project, you have a chance here because you're videoing it, practice, 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 and make sure you speak nice and clearly, and don't leave it to the last minute. Make sure you have a video that you're really proud of and confident that it will score and get all your.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
I did see a note in our chat about the link to the score sheet not working. And I just want to quickly mention that is available on the firstinspires.org website. You can get that score sheet fairly easily if you search around there. So hopefully, or you can just Google it and it should come.
Yeah, actually, one of our producers, Kate, has actually found the link and posted it in chat for everyone. So that's fabulous.
Awesome.
Speaking more generally about the missions this year, Jeff, like which one do you see as like a very accessible mission for teams?
There's a few missions that are very close to the launch area. The bench, the hopscotch bench, and even the bar, the pull-up bar, because you can drop your innovative architecture piece off there as well. Those are very close. They're pretty much direct lines, so they should be fairly achievable for the teams to do. I know that Scott, when he designs the games, because we've had a chance to chat at Worlds for a few years now, he always likes to put missions in that teams can achieve in their first season and have success. So he's not trying to like destroy or any of the rookie teams, make it super hard. There are harder missions for the more experienced teams, but there are some missions that are designed to be a fairly simple, just quick in and out type missions.
So speaking of some of those harder missions, which missions do you see as more challenging?
I think the mission, the weight machine mission is it's not a super challenging mission to do. Having built and set up a mat, it's a very tight space in the very far corner of the mat. So moving around to that mission is going to be a challenge and getting it in there. Plus you have the bocce set up right there in the rowing machine. So you've got a lot going on, and I think there's a health unit in that area as well. So there's a lot going on in that corner. So it's a tight fit. And I think that'll be interesting to see how teams are able to lift that, especially the teams that choose the heavier yellow end while working in a small space.
So, we've talked a little bit about accessible missions and challenging missions, and every year there's certain rules that sometimes confuse teams a little bit. Is there any that you want to call out right here and maybe give a little bit of clarification to our teams?
I think this year we've really worked on reducing the rules. The rule book used to be 47 pages, and this year it's down to 15 pages.
Oh, beautiful. That's
which even last year was like 21, and we just keep taking stuff out. And I actually am now I'm on the rules review committee, so I get to see it a little bit earlier and make some suggestions. And we're trying to work the confusing stuff out as much as possible. The two inspection areas are a little bit, I think teams might think the large is the whole area, but it's only that one part. And I think most of our mat is fairly self-explanatory. We've taken a lot of the restrictions, like you must do a mission this way, or you must do a mission that way out, and that helps a lot.
fabulous. Another specific rule question that just came up from chat is, can you bring the blue wheel back to base and flip it?
Yes, the light blue wheel can be flipped anywhere.
Awesome. So
so it's only the heavy black wheel that has the red line restriction.
Right. That makes sense. Here's a more generic question from another Mark Bredner. But what's the most interesting call you've ever had to make as an FLL referee?
I had a call. I had my own team had a mission where they sent the robot out, and a minifigure they were supposed to pick up was missing. And the robot went through and it didn't have it. And then about 4 years later, as a head referee, I had to make the same call that happened to my team, which is to another team. And thankfully, because I was familiar with the situation, they got benefit of the doubt, and it was a field error. That might be the most interesting one. We did have one 2 years ago where a team had added a significant amount of glue to their robot, which is not quite allowed since it's not Lego.
No.
So that one was an interesting it wasn't really an in-game call, it was a pre-round call because there was a lot of the coach did not know the team member had added. That was a surprise.
Right. Yeah, that's always going to be that's a hard one, but that's why our volunteers are entrusted to make these tough calls, and they do so trying to be as fair as possible to all parties involved. Specifically to programming, you mentioned this year that there's a broader availability of what you can program in. Do you have a recommendation on a programming software for teams, Jeff?
I do not. I think for newer teams, the Mindstorm software, it's very visual. It's fairly easy to use. There's a lot of help available online. There are a lot of sites, some paid, some free, that are available. The programming languages, if you want to program like Python or Java, really depends on the comfort level of your programming people and of whoever's helping them out. I know my team, I would be no help on the programming end whatsoever. They're pretty much on their own.
Yeah, I think, you know, just if I can throw in a couple cents here, I think it's really important to pick something that's going to work for the entirety of your team, not just a couple students. I think there's sometimes a tendency where a couple students who are like really good at programming are like, I want to do Python, I want to do Python. But you want to make sure that we keep things accessible. And there's so many great offerings right now in the graphical realm that it's a really low barrier to entry. But you got to figure out what works best for you.
I would suggest a long-time coach, if I can go with coaching for a second, I would do something that you're not just using for this season, but that even if you have like a grade 8 student who's a really strong Python programmer, they should be teaching the other members of the team that as well, so that you can continue on and you can build on it. You don't want to just use something for 1 year and then next year have to start from scratch.
That makes a lot of sense. Jeff, thank you so much for being here today. Like, this experience is like invaluable to all our teams. That was really, really informative, and I'm sure teams will be looking at this, not just what they saw today, they're going to be watching the archives to try and learn as much as possible. So thank you so much for doing that. We're going to be back in just a couple minutes. Hey, everyone, get your phones, your mobile devices ready. We're going to be doing a Kahoot challenge with some awesome prizes. But in the meantime, let's take a look at this word from our sponsors.
Snapdragon, acenda as luzes.
Hey Snapdragon, turn on the lights.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning on this fabulous kickoff celebration. We'll be seeing some of you this afternoon. But in the meantime, everyone, please stay safe, stay distanced, stay good, and have lots of fun and start your Lego building. We'll see you everyone soon. Bye.